city in the film. Second. Yeah, the city in the film. So as Professor Nikhila was saying, my work is on Hyderabad, and the reason I was interested in this film is because it's located in the city of Hyderabad. I but to before we get to the film, I want to give you a brief understanding of the present or how Hyderabad city has been constructed in various cinemas, which is why this film becomes important. That's where I see its importance. Hyderabad has had representation, it's been present in cinemas, various kinds of cinemas. Particularly, I will talk about Hindi/Urdu cinema. Then there is Telugu cinema. Then there is Deccani cinema. So these are the three language cinemas at the intersection of which I will locate this film. So if you look at Hindi cinema per se, Hindi/Urdu cinema, it has had there's this film called Asman Mahal, which is from the 1960s by K.A. Abbas. So this film is I mean, in fact, I that was one of the films I wanted to I wanted to suggest for viewing, but I couldn't because there are no subtitles. I instead chose the newest film which has subtitles, which is FALAKNUMA. But Asman Mahal is a very interesting film because it presents the transition of Hyderabad from a princely city to a post-colonial city that is after the police action, and it is done via the decadence or of a Nawab, Asmanuddaulah. So there's I'm summarizing what the film is about. So there is a mahal called Asman Mahal, it is owned by, it's the property of Asmanuddaulah. Asmanuddaulah, played by Prithviraj Kapoor, is an old Nawab, and most of his property is gone. He's soon getting bankrupt, but he doesn't want to give up his worldview. He doesn't want to give up the time when he was important. While the times have changed, he doesn't have the money power. He doesn't have the traditional, the lineage power as well, because things are changing in Hyderabad. So, and there is a transition which is happening because now there's Indian Army, and all of that is marked in the film. So I will point to one specific aspect of the film. So Asmanuddaulah is posed a question. The film poses a question to Asmanuddaulah saying, why don't you leave Hyderabad for Pakistan? Which is a sort of a question which is posed to the Hyderabadi Muslim even today. Even in the recent, local elections, it was constantly, it was constantly mentioned that Hyderabad is a Nizamian city, and hence BJP particularly wanted to rid it of its Nizamian nature. So this question posed to a Muslim that, why doesn't Hyderabadi Muslim leave India? And Asmanuddaulah answers, saying, this is where my ancestors are, this is where my friends are, so this is my country and I will not leave, which is the kind of what the patriotism which most Indian Muslims have had to show, which specifically Hyderabadi Muslims also have had to show, or constantly prove themselves to be Indian. Why am I talking about this? Because this universe of the old city and the Muslim subject is the one which sticks with most Hindi/Hindustani films from there on. Like there are several films like Bobby Jasus, which is again set in old city. Then there is Dawat-e-Ishq, which is set in old city. So for Bollywood specifically, Hyderabad was only significant before 1948. Because it had a distinct identity then. After that, it's gone. So for them, it's that universe which makes sense, and they sort of continue with that universe, taking from, like, say, Asman Mahal and so on. So old city finds very, very significant presentation in most Hindi films. You don't see high tech city, you don't see other stuff in, say for instance, there's a majority of Telugu population don't feature. It's the old city with specific Muslim subjecthood that features in Bollywood. Then coming to the Telugu cinema. For Telugu cinema, the city has always been Madras. S.V. Srinivas has written about it, that city has always been Madras, even until 1970s, though the statehood had happened and Hyderabad had become the capital city of the Telugu state of Andhra Pradesh. The city never ceased to be Madras. In fact, the Telugu public sphere was between Madras and Vijayawada. Hyderabad never featured. In fact, most people felt that Hyderabad was not a Telugu city because of its predominance of Urdu culture. This continues in cinema until 70s, and even after 70s, you never see, very rarely see a Muslim subjecthood. And even if there is any reference to history which is presented, it's always the history of the Razakars. That is, a Muslim only becomes a Razakar. There is no other subjecthood allowed for a Muslim in Telugu universe. And geographically speaking, it mostly stays out of Old City. When it goes to Old City is often a den of villains. And it's not a place where one would want to be. And there are exceptions to it. For instance, this film Okkadu is an exception to it. This is mostly what S.V. Srinivas has already written about. Okkadu is an exception, but again, it presents an old city which is hardly old city. Like, there is no language. There is, it's a very sanitized old city, which, even if it is present in Telugu cinema. So there's I think that, in my research, I'd say that there is a geographical boundary which Telugu cinema doesn't want to cross beyond, or rather going into the old city. It doesn't want to lay claim on old city. It is sort of an outlier for the Telugu cinema. Then we have the third language, or rather, which is an in-between, which is Deccani. There are several of these, Hyderabad Nawabs, and then Angrez, etc., which easily present, or rather geographically is present both in the new city, high-tech city, Jubilee Hills, and as well as the old city. So you see characters which are, easily traversing between these two geographical enclaves very easily via using the language, which is Deccani. And it doesn't have a problem moving between. The characters do not have problem moving between these geographies, whereas in Telugu cinema you see that there is a problem. In the recent Telugu cinema, again, it is mostly dwells in the high-tech city, Kukatpalli, Jubilee Hills, etc., geographically speaking. But when we have these three languages almost presenting very different parts of the city and different versions of the city, because they're addressing specific religio-linguistic publics. That is, Telugu cinema predominantly addressing a Hindu universe, and Hindustani cinema, because it is national. So, and because quote unquote national, because Hyderabad's story for the rest of India ends with 1948. It sort of dwells with the old city and that. And Hyderabad, and for that matter, Bollywood can locate stories in Hyderabad because there is a significant, Hindi/Urdu speaking population here, which is like, whether you see in terms of, how Nehru viewed it or any of those nationalist leaders, Hyderabad's distinction was that it is at the heart of the center, it is an amalgamation of South and the North, sort of a thing, which is what Bollywood sort of carries it forward and sticks to it. For Deccani, because the language itself is a mix of several languages, Urdu, Kannada, Telugu, etc. So it doesn't really bother, and so it sort of can move about in all of these places. So with this background, then comes the next point I want to make is that then comes the whole Telangana struggle, when entire Telugu industry has been questioned. Its position has been questioned, that the Telugu industry is a migrant industry. All of these people have come from coastal Andhra, and they do not have roots in Telangana. And and there was also a lot of movement against the stars, etc. Then we have the formation of Telangana state, when Telugu industry started squabbling to represent Telangana/Hyderabad on screen, which is why there came several films like or rather starting to come several films. One of the first films which attempted this was Fida, by Shekhar Kamula. Again, not necessarily. It's not a question of whether that person belongs to the region per se. It's just about how do you construct the region in cinema. So however, Fida rarely bothered about the city because it was set in the village, etc. Village and NRI. That's broadly what the story was. Then comes Falaknuma Das, which literally does it for the first time. That is, never before has there been like Falaknuma, which is like the center of old city, which is not which is not a sanitized space. Find its representation, which is not in the domain of good Muslim, bad Muslim, which is not in the domain of Muslim having to prove their patriotism, which is not in the domain of even nation per se. In this film, because all of you have watched it, the nation really doesn't matter so much because all of them are always only talking about Falaknuma, and there's almost like it's like a tourist brochure which is created. Like there are all the monuments covered. In fact, like when I was watching in the theaters, it is literally like, oh, this is City College, and this is Arts College, and this is Golconda, and this is so many of those spaces which are famous and not so famous, like which are very local. For instance, Ram Ki Bandi, or all of those, which are the work, which is the silver work which happens in Charminar, etc., which are very local, have been very painstakingly captured in the film, in an attempt to like create that Hyderabad of Telangana, that Hyderabadi quote unquote flavor, to bring it to the film. And another important aspect through which this is achieved is the language. I mean, personally, I haven't seen another film where they speak the language which is spoken in Hyderabadi so much throughout the film. At max, earlier they used to be like one-off characters, or even in films like Fida, etc., there are only token characters who do this. But in this film, they've literally like made so much effort to utter that language, which you never hear in cinema. For instance, being someone from Hyderabadi, I speak differently when I speak at home, and I speak differently when I speak outside, because the home there's literally code switching happening all the time. At home, we speak very, like I would say, maybe quote unquote crass kind of a language, versus and which is the Hyderabadi lingo for that matter. Versus what do we study in textbooks, what we speak to other like non-family members, etc., the Telangana dialect so they've painstakingly tried to bring it on screen. The other is presentation of festivals which are again considered to be so central to Telangana, presented by the state itself. For instance, Bonalu, which has gained the status of the state festival, one of the state festivals, and to present non-Brahminical subjectivities on screen, because again I can't remember another Telugu film where you have a mutton business being taking center stage throughout the film. And it's all about mutton business. It's all about and they're all happy drinking and eating meat, and it's not a problem. It's not that Telugu film characters never ate meat, but it was often focused on when villains they eat meat, they drink, and they do some bad stuff. So that sort of a presentation was very predominant. Whereas here you see it's not such a big thing, it's like an everyday thing. So the Brahminical universe has been shifted a little bit. Like it is also seen in case of the marriage rituals, whereas like say in several films you see how the bride is dressed and the groom is dressed, and there is a little bit of Sanskritic rituals happening, and there's always a song on it. But here you see like bridegroom, everybody is drinking on a wedding day, which again is quite unusual for a Telugu cinema universe. So in that way, Falaknuma Das has quite a few peculiar things, which it sort of achieves. And as I mentioned earlier, it is very, very hell bent on locating itself in the city. It does through several visual techniques. Say, for instance, there's a constant zooming out. You see the city, then you come to Falaknuma. It happens multiple times in the film. Like you see the city, then you come back to Falaknuma. And it also draws from the visual representation of several Deccani films. For instance, the film starts off with, the Charminar and this guy on a scooter, and he is talking very Telangana/Deccani language, and he moves. That's how it starts off. So it takes in all those cues, not from the Telugu universe, but from the Deccani universe, which I said, traverses between geographies, and presents it to makes it into a Telugu film. So that's one aspect of the city. Just a second. And another aspect is to have a Muslim female protagonist and not being an issue. So usually for a Telugu film universe, it would be that even if there is an interreligious marriage, it's a barrier. So, they're either there is a fight after which everybody accepts, and then there is a wedding happening. Here, wedding is not an event. The female protagonist is a Muslim is not an event. They easily mingle, and she's also not Hinduized. It's kept ambiguous that sometimes she's participating in Hindu rituals, sometimes she's doing her own Muslim stuff. So it's not a big deal. The religious difference is not a big deal. Again, trying to invoke the Hyderabadi, quote unquote Hyderabadi culture, which is said to, or rather the idea of Deccan, which is said to be a confluence of cultures, for that matter, a confluence of religions, for that matter. So it's there. The film really tries to do that. And again, very unusual for a Telugu film hero to be shown praying or even performing something which looks like a namaz at a dargah. While does one do the namaz at dargah? That's not really, but it's doing those, invoking those symbols where a Telugu film hero is present and participating in an Islamic space, quote unquote Islamic space. So that again is quite unusual for a Telugu film. And the characters constantly invoke belongingness to Falaknuma. That is, they don't want to leave Falaknuma. It's all about, we have been born here, we want to be here, and it's all about my area. So my area is Falaknuma, and I will live and die in Falaknuma. So that belongingness has also been invoked very much. So that's about how the city comes alive, and I've written about it. My argument has been that this film, because of the whole formation of the Telangana state, sort of draws from the Deccani film universe and not the Telugu film universe, which has excluded Old City and all subjectivities of Old City and all non-Brahminical subjectivities before. But while I was watching the film again, there was something, I was toying with this question of how is it that this film is able to do this and other films have not been? Like, even after this film, now, for instance, having a Telangana dialect, I don't know if I have to call it a dialect, but the slang song is an in thing in Telugu cinema, that with every passing film, you have a song which becomes a hit, which is in the local, slang. So again, it is pretty much that there is localization, but limited to a certain extent. So, and I was working around I was thinking about this idea of adaptation. This film itself is an adaptation of Angamali Diaries, which is a Malayalam film, and in its origin, that is in Angamali Diaries, it is about Angamali, which is which is very famous for pork trade, and mostly the Christians are involved in it. So it's that setting in which the narrative happens. So it just occurred to me that it's probably because it's an adaptation, and they started off with Angamali trying to find an Angamali in Hyderabad, is why they sort of ended up with Falaknuma. And otherwise it might not be possible for for them to achieve this much of localization, simply because again going back to the political economy, Telugu film industry still is very much controlled by the capital, the people, every culture wise, capital wise, caste networks wise from coastal Andhra. So would it be possible for such a film which is able to capture the local nuances, at least to a relatively higher extent, from scratch from a Telugu industry? It's a question mark for me, because to me it seems that it is because it is from Angamali Diaries and they started off searching for an Angamali in Hyderabad is why they were able to achieve a Falaknuma Das. So these were the two things. I mean, one is about the city, and the second is about it is because it's an adaptation. That's why it is such a film is possible. So these were the two things which I wanted to talk about, and maybe I'd be happy to hear your points on this, and even discuss this further. Yeah.
Thanks, Yamini, for the presentation. I think it's opened out several issues. In fact, I hadn't, noticed many of the things that you were mentioning about the city, and in fact, one of the ways I watched the Telugu film was, okay, it's just another Telugu film, but probably because I wasn't quite aware of many of these nuances that you pointed out. Anyone who wants to come in at this point to comment on the film or to respond? Yes, Basa, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Ami. Thank you. And I think when I realized that it was you recommending the movie, I was assuming that you will be focusing on the space aspect. So when I watched it, after a long time, I watched the Telugu movie actually. It was a delight because I could recognize, like you said, Falaknuma monuments, etc., especially geographically. And of course, Angamali Diaries, I didn't know it was an adaptation, like a acknowledged adaptation, but it comes out very soon, 5-10 minutes into the film, that it's a copy or a remake of that, right? I think, like you mentioned, I feel that it's a very inadvertent outcomes. The socio-cultural observation that you're making are like inadvertent outcomes of an attempt to remake Angamali Diaries. I think what as a question, what I wanted to ask is, in terms of historically, like Angamali Diaries showcases the forceful masculinity and the idea of the interior Kerala masculinity, which is very true. Like if you go to Angamali, you get a feel of that, right? Is it true of, I wanted to know, historically or socio-culturally, does it make sense to have that kind of violent masculinity in Falaknuma locality itself? So is there a sort of, is there a historical sense of that? Does it, or is it really completely fictional to just place it in Falaknuma, but it's not really the idea of masculinity and how it comes out on the streets of Falaknuma is. I just want to know if you have any observation on that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So per se, I think in terms of the masculinity, it would be an old city Hindu masculinity. It might not specifically only be Falaknuma, but old city, if you just take it as a broad enclave. Yes, it would be an old city Hindu masculinity, because in the sense that that occupying the street space, several things happening on the street, and this whole aspect of constantly being intoxicated, etc., is often associated with this festival of Bonalu, which they present, right? So I feel that they've obviously they have picked several aspects and have sort of sewn it together. But this aspect of Hindu masculinity in Old City, I think would be something which is of a brash. I don't know if if it is as it is represented. Obviously there is quite a bit of exaggeration and all of that, but this brashness which they present, I do think that it does exist. In fact, it is one of the narratives which a lot of people, which in fact Telugu cinema and people from Telugu cinema say that, old city is like, not our space, because it is very, it's almost like everybody's a rowdy there. So it's pretty much that. So it is an existing understanding, whether it's a prejudice or not, but it is an existing understanding of like of the space per se. Yeah. So it's not like it's totally like just because Angamali is there. So I feel that like just as I was watching the film, I was thinking that they must have really searched that, okay, where is Angamali possible in Hyderabad, and then you like it probably started with the pork, and then they sort of in Hyderabad it has to be the mutton, and then that's how they sort of probably, I'm just thinking, probably that could have been how they.
But is there a gang culture, known gang culture historically, in the sense, like in Angamali, there are some like local thug gangs, sort of. Is that
So again, like if you look at the Deccani films as well, they also talk about the same gang culture. So it's whether there are real gangs there. So for instance, there is actually a police project called as Project Chabutra, which actually picks up all these people, all these young men who are hanging around these, maybe crossroads, etc., saying that they are potential rowdy cheaters. So that's whether they are or not is a question mark. Like I really can't answer that, but there is an existing, even in the government social systems, etc., there is an existing understanding that, oh, this is like a rowdy cheater culture, this is like a thing, kind of a thing. Yeah. So, and the settlements and stuff pretty much very much there. For instance, a lot of people who do settlements have become politicians later, which we know sort of. So that is also there. Yeah. And there are several police projects rounding off these youngsters in old city. So this project Chabutra, for instance, is only for the old city. And there's also another project where an NGO was roped in to like basically counsel several of these young men so that they don't end up as rowdy cheaters. So rowdy cheaters, what does it actually mean? Only the police know, but broadly that, yeah.
Okay, thank you. It'll be great if you can just put a map for everybody's use sometime later, maybe.
Yes.
To locate
sure.
Yeah. Sorry.
In fact, like when 1 second, Geeta ma'am. So in fact, when I was watching this film, and my aunt asked, what are you watching? I said Falaknuma. She hadn't really heard. I mean, she's not really watching any new film. So she was like, oh, Falaknuma is really the place where a lot of working class people, live. Kind of. That was her first impression, because she's very familiar with old city. She's lived in the old city. I don't live in old city. She's lived in the old city. So that's still the impression of many people, that it's the working class population. It's the working class culture, kind of a thing. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Geeta, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Yamini. And I must say, like Nikhila mentioned, I too, saw the film as an out and out commercial film, probably, best placed in the gangster genre. So that's how I saw it. But thanks to you for, maybe I should go back and watch the film again to kind of understand it the way you have looked at it from the point of view of the city. And since I'm not that familiar with Hyderabad, in fact, Falaknuma, what struck me was, the Falaknuma Palace and, Taj Falaknuma. So it was that. And then when I saw the movie, I thought, oh, okay, there's another, Falaknuma out there. And also when you mentioned the, the Muslim protagonist, the heroine, the Muslim heroine, and how the marriage was non-issue in the film. Is that, I mean, does it really work? I thought of it as,
how was that resolved so unproblematically? No, it came across as almost too good to be true. So so I don't know whether it really, I mean, it does happen like that in that part of the city, or it was just quote unquote filmy thing. So and of course the issue of masculinity that Basav also raised. So that I think there is a distinct a kind of masculinity that the the film and those gang wars and all of that seem to construct. And also it comes across even in the dialogue, like don't cry like a woman and things like that. So these are some of the things that I was thinking about while watching the film.
Thank you very much for your comments, ma'am. In fact, like masculinity is something which is like, I mean, it's very difficult for me to watch the film because of the whole. It's so like it's almost idolizes that kind of a masculinity, both in Angamali Diaries as well as this. Even in Angamali Diaries, it's pretty like looking up to that kind of masculinity. So in terms of the dialogues and the language itself, yes, the language is quite misogynistic. Even in like you hear this all the way, all the time. So it's not really like I don't think it's exaggeration at all. Like the kind of language which they use is really quite bad here. I would say, for instance, there's a lady in my neighborhood who is who I mean who's not mentally sound. So she says this aloud, these things aloud. So this is literally the language she would use, and it's not like just because she's mentally insane, but because it's used very easily. So and the second thing which you were talking about is the Hindu-Muslim question. Yes and no, I would say, because one is this whole, because it is tapping into this idea of Deccan. And Deccan, as historically the way it's been constructed, is that there is a confluence of Hindus and Muslims, and there is, it's not that, in fact, the Nizams used to take pride in it. For instance, Deccani cinema also sort of taps into this, that the kind of divisions which exist in, between Hindus and Muslims in rest of India do not exist in Hyderabad. This is the like sort of a narrative universe in which it is set, which is also the narrative, narrative of most political parties. Leave aside only BJP, but otherwise, say for instance, the counter for BJP has been that from PRS, though it's very soft Hindutva, but they also say that this is the city of Ganga, Jamuni, Tehzeeb, where Hindus and Muslims coexist peacefully, and so it is possible. And the other thing is the whole non-Brahminical aspect of it. So, and particularly the dargahs, for instance, the dargahs, a lot of lower castes or, Bahujans, very like flood dargahs. So they don't really see it as like, transgressing the religion per se. For instance, like they wear these tabis, etc., etc. So it's not as watertight as we now. I mean, right now, currently, it probably is a lot more difficult. But in the universe of this film, which probably maybe like says that we are trying to tap into the ideal, which whether it existed once upon a time or not, but the ideal version of the Deccan is this, that the Hindu-Muslim question is not such a big question. And with intersected with the non-Brahminical, element. I think that's why it says that it's possible. Yeah.
Yes, Jayanto, yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so I will put forth some of my very confused thoughts. And one thing is, of course, I agree with everything which Yamini has said. And I just feel that there needs to be a very kind of a focused discussion on, I think one of the major issues in this film is, as Basav pointed out, is that of masculinity of a particular kind, So the two kinds of masculinity that one comes across very strongly, one of course is the hegemonic, and the other is the complicit, which everyone else is guilty of. The hegemonic is because of, it is not patriarchal, it is because of a sense of power, kind of macho-ness which comes out. And I don't know what is the source of this, because it cannot be located in the old city, new city divide. It cannot be located in the Hindu-Muslim divide, but it is there. It has come from somewhere. Maybe it has come from Hindi cinema, because I have been reading that Bengali cinema, particularly in the 1980s, when it started, going away from the Bhadralok culture, the romantic films of Uttam Kumar and Suchitra Sen, were no longer, viable, were no longer saleable. So they moved to the different kind of a hero, a different kind of masculinity altogether. And a whole lot of Bhadralok Bengalis were complaining that this is the influence of Hindi cinema. Whether it is true or not, but I know that there's certain social changes, the fall from grace of the middle classes is also one of the things, the whole negating the notion of romance, as something very important in life was also one of the things, So violence here cannot be seen only in terms of the old and the new. It is because the new in Hyderabad, like so many other cities like Bangalore and Pune, where I live, is the new is only IT, and that is so all consuming that anything which is not IT is considered old, But then there is there is definitely a kind of a point of view which assumes this all-knowing sensibility on the part of the filmmaker, because even the masculinity which is shown, there is territoriality because they're gangsters, and there must have always been gangsters in all kinds of cities. It had nothing to do with the old and the new, The new is so markedly, it is so consciously different because it's sort of, you know, it's yes, Basim, I'll come back to your system question later, that it is about the non-modern, and if, as long as the modern means only IT, if it means only modern technological advance, there will be always a gap in our understanding. And we know that the quote-unquote Bollywood has always had some kind of an influence of Hyderabad, because even if we place the old as Urdu-based and the new as Telugu-based or English-based, more correctly, it would not be really correct, because Dakkani has always been a sort of a precursor to even Urdu. And one of the first poets in Urdu is a chap called Wali Dakkani, who wrote in Dakkani, and gradually he sort of refined his language into, and not Lucknow, not Delhi have been the place where Urdu arose, So these things have to be kept in mind. So this Dakkani, which is kind of a composite language between what would emerge later as Urdu and what is Telugu, and in terms of Hindi cinema, what is Hindi, that is something which needs to be examined a little more. Because even in Hindi cinema, we have had a character like Mahmood, Mahmood was always shown speaking in that Hyderabadi dialect, and he was always shown as the person that, the kind of a go-to person. He always created humor and all these things, And films like Asman, Mahal and all that, they're very consciously trying to, build upon a perceived notion of Muslimness, which I don't think has ever been there, in the city of Hyderabad. That's my take on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments and points. So, in terms of, I don't think I want to compare whether it is real per se or it is not. For me, all of these are just constructed worlds of cinema, and the question of whether it is real, whether it is located in Hyderabad per se, is not so relevant. But what is constructed and what is considered to be what is considered to be good enough to be represented in cinema is what like I am interested in. But this question of Deccani per se, like just a clarification, the Deccani has had wider roots. So one is like so there has been Deccani. In fact, Deccani has roots in Delhi as well. That it comes from Hind. I mean, the Urdu itself comes from Hindavi, and then the whole, as you mentioned, Wali, Deccani, etc. But the region of Hyderabad per se claims a lot over Deccani because there has been a lot of discourse production on the idea of Deccani, which hasn't happened so much with Delhi or any other place, simply because there has been a lot of change in, the form of governments, also the people in power. Whereas in Hyderabad, from Qutub Shahis, though it was an Asaf Jahi dynasty, which is different, they also sort of tried to, at least towards the later period of their reign, they sort of tried to claim back to the Deccani. For instance, right now I'm working in this place called as Idara Adabiyat Urdu, which is literally a symbol for this whole idea of Deccani. So the Deccani was proposed by a scholar, Khadri Moinuddin Zor, who proposed this synthesis called as Deccani synthesis, and is like written reams and reams and like loads, truckloads of books on it. And it's not just him. There's like an entire discourse of Deccani which was happening during the Asaf Jahi period. And say in the Qutub Shahi, they draw from the Qutub Shahi period, saying that Kuli Qutub Shah wrote in Persian, wrote in Telugu. So, and it wasn't such a big deal. And so they try to draw those historical lineages from that. So there was a revival of the discourse of Deccan and Deccani in the 19th and 20th centuries in Hyderabad, which continues till date. Like you attend any in the so-called quote unquote Hyderabadi circles, there's an ongoing discourse on Deccani. In fact, day before yesterday, I met a poet who belongs to the whole the Mazakia Shairi, which is about all about Hyderabadi humor. Mahmood is not really, I mean, obviously because he was not a Mazakia Shair in Hyderabad, but this whole sarcastic humor slash humor poetry, they have ongoing network of mushairas where a lot of people from districts of Hyderabad come and perform in Hyderabad. So there is an ongoing network of this idea. Again, all of them on the very much connected to this idea of Deccani. So which is the whole and they all, whether it was really possible, whether it really existed, that there really was a period when there was this intermingling of traditions, religions or not, is not really relevant. I would say my argument is that there is so much discourse and so many people tap into it, and there is again lots and lots of literature being written on it right now, a lot of films tapping into it right now, and a lot of people starting from whether it's literature or any form of arts, trying to tap into it, makes the yes, Gautam Pemaraju, yes. So in fact, because you bought this and because you watched this film, so there's this film called as The Tongue Untied by Gautam Pemaraju, whose first frame is the same as this film's frame. That is the Falaknuma Das's frame. It's the same thing. So they literally are all in dialogue with each other on this idea of Deccan. Whether and the whole Deccani itself, though it has wider presence and wider relevance, it is this region which is sort of tapping into it again and again, and sort of keeping it alive, and trying to craft certain futures based on that idea. So that's one thing. And about the masculinity itself, yes, it's not that there is this, I mean, again, I'm not really interested in addressing this question of real versus cinematic, because for me it is cinematic, and it is only in the cinematic like level that I am talking about. So in terms of there are different kinds of masculinity, as you said, and is it only limited to or old city versus new city divide? So again, I would say that it is a class and caste which dominates this kind of masculinity. So for instance, a lot of Telugu films have these heroes who are pretty much like gangsters. If you ask me, they're all gangsters, but they're not. They're not the Falaknuma Das. There is a difference, and that difference, I think, is a like probably an attempt to show the different kind of caste location, caste mostly caste location, class location, yes, but mostly caste location, which is why there is a slight difference. And about old and new cities, I would say that there are multiple new cities in Hyderabad. So it is the Urdu to the Telugu to the IT. So for the old city people, the new city is when you cross Musi. I mean, I don't have a map as Basav Biradar had suggested, unfortunately. But if you cross Musi, that's new city. But for the people in this part of the city, which is if you cross Musi, the new city is high-tech city. So there are multiple new cities there. So it's not the singular old city versus the new city anyway. But it's mostly in terms of the drawing from the lineage of the pre-48 or the Deccani universe to the Telugu universe, which is mostly the Madras and so on. Images from my dissertation. I will just look that up. I will while we have the discussion. And yeah, so there is that multiple new cities, and yeah, that's about it, I think.
Rajan had unmuted himself. Rajan, please go ahead. Rajan, are you there? Okay, while Rajan gets back, anyone else? Yes, Sridhar, please go ahead.
Yamini, I liked your presentation. Somehow, when it is released, I could not watch. But see, the kind of feeling or the kind of I don't know whether we can call it nostalgia or not. Something is persisting. If you see width and breadth of Hyderabad, but that is only spoken in Urdu and written in Urdu. So we do not know. I do not know Urdu, so I don't know how did they present it. So though films capture the a kind of a flavor of the old city, but old city you will see that whatever you started is actually has connection. Asma, see, it is not the most people who have seen a reversal of their lives. The 48 also very important. Pre-48, post-48 is a submissiveness. You see, without the Hyderabadi people, you cannot imagine Hyderabad. Even if it is the new city or the what is it, high-tech city, or they have financial district also. Without the connections of the Hyderabadi people, you cannot see. So I feel that the composite culture, I do not know. People are finding comfortable composite culture to take a victim side. We always want to argue justice to victim. So we see that Muslim subject in the Hyderabad is victimized, but that victimhood also, in what kind of victimhood they experienced, people doesn't speak. Nowhere, neither in literature nor in cinemas or in politically also. But that is present actually. That I do not know how to bring that. But even when I wanted to do my research, I wanted to do on Telangana. My teacher insisted you should learn Urdu, otherwise you cannot do justice. So I withdraw. So somewhere it lies, I think. But you have connections, beautiful connections. So I think the very networks of anything you take, it will connect to wherever this Hyderabad people and not only Gold City, they spread across. So it connects all of them. Whichever development comes, without their confidence or without involving them, nothing will complete. But they will be victimized. Though that victimhood, we hardly see any addressing of it, that victimhood. So maybe that whatever you are trying to say, that why don't you leave for Pakistan? So that's also one reason that all the rich left for Pakistan. All the rich. So only the middle class or the lower middle class prevailed here. But that may also be one problem that's not getting expression. I don't know. I hope I am trying to make some sense. So, but it's this Telugu also distinct. You don't find, see, if you go to Old City without facing the Urdu, you cannot have any dialogue with them. Even in the N.T. Ramarao, after N.T. Ramarao came, Telugu people migrated in scores and it tried to do what. But whoever are there in Hyderabad for generations, even Marwadis also, or even Marathis or Kannadigas, or so all that you will find. But I did not see any fiction also, which represents that picture. Maybe one place we can see that whatever you tried to say about Asma, maybe that is the loss or the repression of the very expression of that culture, or very aspects of it. But it crops up time and again. Without, see, even when the Rajshekar Reddy wanted to come into power, so he also tried to utilize that kind of so-called the Kadapa culture. He brought it here in Hyderabad, bomb culture. Across Andhra Pradesh, it is Rajshekar Reddy who spread the bomb culture. Biggest gunda. So, and after this man came, who is it? Chandrababu. There is a forceful the villainization of Hyderabadis. That especially took place, and see, before that there is a kind of a gunda culture. They are all become politicians in TDP party, Telugu Desam party. They are official members, ministers also. So there also they utilize the Rayalaseema bomb culture, the faction culture. that tried to say impose on city. So maybe, I don't know, maybe whatever you started with is the beautiful one. The dialogue, historical dialogue, that makes some sense. One has to build upon it. I have no idea, but this man, what is his name? Anant Maringanti, the urban lab, Hyderabad urban lab. They are doing something, but
Yeah, I'm involved with them. I work with them.
okay. One day I attended one of their proceedings. It was something they're trying. So I think since you have them with them contact, I think that you are better aware of it. Okay, thank you for reminding this movie to us.
Thank you very much for those comments, sir. So basically, just underlining, I mean, I don't really have much to add, but you're very right in pointing out.
I have no questions. I'm only saying things.
Yes, I understand. I'm just saying that you're very right in pointing out the nostalgia. In fact, there's a lot of nostalgia associated with Hyderabad, and like you also said, a lot of migration out of Hyderabad. In fact, there are these online groups which I'm working as a part of some other research work, which has several thousands of members, 10,000, 12,000 sort of members from all over the world who are constantly discussing Hyderabad, present, history, everything. But it's all about Hyderabad, and it's not a dormant group. It is very, very active with multiple posts every day. And there are newsletters which are solely dedicated to Hyderabad. There are meets which are solely about Hyderabad, say in Chicago, in New York, in New Jersey, etc., etc. And yeah, so it's a huge network of people on this idea of Hyderabad, and this idea sort of keeps changing. So yeah, and as ma'am had mentioned in my introduction, Khidki Collective, which is basically trying to understand this, what you said, which is missing in the whole thing. What is it that which you articulated very well. That's what we're trying to work on. So yeah, there's nothing.
Rajan had a question in the chat box.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. But the violence does not have any resolution. Don't understand why. So again, from the way I looked at the film, it's just like in Angamali Diaries, it was in this film. Violence is just it's not a purposeful violence that is for a particular reason. That, for instance, there is a story arc, where there is a conflict, and to resolve that there is violence, and then there is like violence is just a way of life. And probably it is not seen as violence, as earlier discussions have pointed out. It is just a part of that masculinity which is there, which is presented. Again, I'm not getting into whether it's real or fictitious, but just that kind of masculinity which is present. So violence is just a part of it. It's not for a particular reason. It's just every day, and it's not seen as violence as such. For us, it is violence, but not for that narrative universe.
Okay. Was wondering, Yamini, how this film was received. I mean, was it seen as part of this, instituting a new kind of Telangana film? Was it appropriated for something like that, or because I know, like in Telugu cinema currently, there are attempts to fashion Telangana film culture and film history and so on. So was this film important as a part of that? Or, as you said, is it just another attempt at localization?
So I don't think while the film was, like in the theaters, it was, it was used for any particular purpose. It's just that there are lots of films which are coming, as you are aware, which are trying to tap into this Telangana, the localization or the Telangana flavor. This more incidentally than intentionally, as Basar Viradar was pointing out also, that I don't think that they even intended to localize per se. It's just that how do we find Angamali in Hyderabad? I feel that that's how this came to be. rather than, like even a conscious attempt at localization per se. But having watched it in the theaters, there was it was a very positive response in the audience. I can't really say in terms of how it's been written about. I haven't done that work, so I can't say that. But by the audience, it is quite like it really is a it really feels really good to see so many of those Hyderabad spaces like on screen. And so that's what people were really happy about. In the language itself, for me as an audience, if when I listen to the language, I mean, leave aside the cuss words, but just the usage of that language feels so homely. So that was very well received. But I don't I don't think any of these films, like whether it was Fida, whether this, or whether Love Story after this, they're just tapping into, like, for me, like from my perspective, these are all just tapping into the audience shift, that now the audience is very consciously aware of this, and it's okay to talk about it, that their Telangana culture has been neglected, and it's been the because of the formation of the state itself, it's very okay to talk about it. I mean, so they do talk about it, and everybody, they know that there is a market, so they tap into it. But other than that, I don't know if there is like, even in the film industry, if there is like a real, like in rhetoric maybe, like, but in real, is there any change to like fashion a Telangana industry? I'm not sure, because KCR has been giving lots and lots of money to the existing Telugu film industry, which just doubles up as the Telangana film. It's the same set of people, but just that now they have the Telangana flag to them self, and they are trying to present, quote unquote, the local in all of these various ways. I don't know if there is a particular Telangana culture as such. I mean, I'm not so equipped to like comment on that, but from my work on in the labor unions, so there are lots of labor unions which have come up in Telangana. So all of these film labor unions, which used to be a Telugu cinema labor union, now there is a Telangana labor union, which was just a group of people who said that no, we are not getting a due in the Telugu film chamber, so we'll form our own. But there is no official stance on what their status is, because still the capital is very much with the same set of people. So maybe while they're hiring, they hire from like sometimes from the Telugu film unions, sometimes from the Telangana film unions. But otherwise, I personally don't know if there is like if it is even possible to like tweak the film culture per se. Yeah.
And this is Suresh Babu Productions.
Yes. So this is also the hero is also the director of this film, and he does, like, none of his other films have anything to do with like this or even the local or anything. He's just like any other. So this is just incidental film in that sense. But incidental in the sense that it happens. I think it is also only possible post Telangana. So yeah. In fact, there was a very interesting comment on Google on this film, which I'll just share. I'll just share the screen 1 second. While I was rewatching it yesterday, I just came across this this comment 1 second. So I'm just sharing this. You can see it, right? So there is okay, wait. There was a 1 second. There was a thing which where he says he's an Andhra guy. 1 second. Just a second. I think it's not this comment. Just Yes. So the audience is pretty, like, I was presently surprised with this. They're all like literally like very much roped into the whole Telangana discourse. So this is what I wanted to show. Freddie Mercury Balsara. He's writing a lot of things about other actors as well, but so you know, this whole thing about Andhra, then there's Telangana, and then there is Tamil, and then there's Bollywood. A lot of things are happening in this comment, but yeah.
Yeah, the meta thing is that his handle is Freddie Mercury.
Yes. Yes. See, keep weeping, days are near for to form separate Tollywood industry. So all of that.
But from a production house perspective, is this a Telangana production house?
No, I don't think there are any. I mean, like personally, I'm not aware of a Telangana production house at all.
Okay.
Suresh Productions.
Yeah, that's
Dagupatis.
Yes. Yeah,
Dagupati means
thank you for this. Yeah, they are very much from Andhra. Like, in fact, their family was the one which was involved in the Karamchedu. I mean, extended.
Yes. Yeah.
So thank you very much, Basra Vedanta, for sharing this map. So the Musi, and this was the earlier old city. Then this was the new city even during the Nizams, because in Chadarghat was where the residency was located for a certain period of time. Then it moved to Secunderabad. Then that is further new in one sense. Then came all of these areas, even for that matter, which I'm right now located in, Maulali, etc., which is not there here at all. For instance, in this film, I'm forgetting the name, but Shyam Benegal's film,
Mandi.
Yeah, Mandi. In Mandi, Maulali is like the outskirts, but like that's where I am now, and it's not outskirts at all. So that's the really non-city for that matter, even during Mandi. But that's pretty much the city now. And then we have the high-tech city, which is the brand new city. We further away have financial districts still broadly. So multiple news, but broadly the new in terms of the shift in socio-politicals is the old city other side of the around Musi to the newer 1960 1970 development areas, which is all of these like HMT, ECIL, all of these are when factories in the 1960s, put up in 1960s, and there were new settlements. Then we have the brand new IT city, which is the high-tech city. So broadly, those three is what I usually consider. So there is another map which I have. This one is definitely better than that, but I'll just show that as well. So
yeah, this one I sent is a colonial one anyway.
Yeah. So this is also an old map, but it is from a magazine. I'll just zoom in. So here you see that this is from 1932, I think. So there is no Secunderabad represented because Secunderabad was off. Secunderabad was the British cantonment. So it is not really represented in Hyderabad maps. Then you have, I marked that region for some other purpose. However, this is the Musi River, and you have FALAKNUMA here. FALAKNUMA Road and FALAKNUMA Castle here, but FALAKNUMA area is this here. Yeah. These are still like, I mean, these are just the areas which were there in 1932, which is still very much, these are like literally the center, Amirpet and Domalguda, etc. That's it. Yeah.
Okay, anyone else who wants to come in at this point? Yes, Tarakeshwar, go ahead.
Extending from Nikla's question about the reception. So you said it was well received in the theater. So that's a kind of ethnographic account. But in terms of the box office, how was it received?
It was successful. I don't have the numbers, but it is considered to be a hit film. It wasn't poorly received at all.
And then about this trying to cash in on Telangana sentiment, I think there is a simplistic reading, I would say. Because Telangana identity, yes, it is being fashioned. It is not that it is a completed process as such. There are different forces which are trying to lay claim to this identity. So one is predominantly Telugu identity, though it might claim Hyderabad, Nizam, Asabzai, everything into it. But I think this film is also making a different kind of claim on the Telangana identity. Whether it gets accepted or not, going by the reception, it seems to have been received well. But going by the comments that you read out from the mail, I don't think this claim is being accepted, but that they seem to be trying to discredit this claim. So yes, it is incidental. They're trying to remake a Malayalam movie and then trying to see what will best fit into that narrative from here. So it could be unintentional, incidental, but it is also making a claim to a certain kind of Telangana identity. So that is important. And the contestation is happening about the Telangana identity itself. That is fascinating. Rather than dismissing this claim, what is this claim and what is the counter to this claim and what is this contestation that is being happening about Telangana identity through this medium is something that is worth exploring, I would say.
Thank you very much, sir, for those comments. So
And then the
yes, go ahead, sir. So I was just saying that it was not so much a dismissal, but rather if you look at the political economy, nothing has really changed. As Nikhila ma'am was asking, is there a fashioning of a Telangana film culture? If you look at this, this film or even the other films, so nothing has really changed in terms of even during the movement itself. The kind of demands which were there towards the Telugu film industry, that there has to be like more, more Telangana actors, more Telangana film personnel. None of that really has happened per se. So just following the capital is why I said that it is cashing in on that moment, because again, yes, I do agree with your suggestion that, irrespective of whether it's intentional or not, it is participating in that creation. Yes, that definitely I do agree. But my comment was more in terms of following looking at the political economy. It's the same people who probably would make something else. So it is not really a rooted or rather an intentional approach to fashion it. Nonetheless, it still fashions that. Yes, definitely. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, the second point was about comparing it to Angamali Diaries. As the title itself suggests, Angamali Diaries is more about the region. It was not actually Eurocentric. But in Telugu, it becomes Eurocentric. It is FALAKNUMA, yes, but it's FALAKNUMA Das. So E becomes the focus. And especially, it struck to me at the end. In Malayalam, I think all those people who are part of that gang, what they are doing now is informed to us. But here, I think only FALAKNUMA Das and his wife, they have set up a meat processing industry, and all others are part of it. But there, he has gone to Gulf, I think, and he comes back. And when he comes back, what he sees, the kind of transformation that has happened in Angamali, because now Angamali is close to the international airport in Kochi. So a small outskirts of Kochi, Ernakulam too, being part of the airport, the transformation, that is also brought out in Angamali Diaries. So here, though it is using FALAKNUMA, as you said, to find something to that, but the transformation of the region itself is not prominent in this Telugu narrative. It is the transformation of Das that becomes more prominent. So it becomes more hero-centric in Telugu, I think. I don't know how to make sense of it in the Telugu context.
Yes, sir, I totally agree with that. I mean, that's a great, observation that it is really, it is hero-centric, and, instead of Angamali diaries, it becomes, Falaknuma Das. So that definitely, I think, is a very valid point. And in the Telugu context, I would say that's again underlining what I was saying, that it is incidental, that they just wanted to find something which is, but still fitting into the existing formula with which Telugu works. And that's why I was wondering, is this film possible if there wasn't an Angamali Diaries? I'm very doubtful, because Falaknuma is incidental. Like, there, Angamali is not incidental. It is, Angamali is literally the protagonist of the film itself. Yes, there is a lot of masculinity, and I feel that in this adaptation, masculinity was the essence which was taken. And that is what has been recreated and everything. And again, hero-centricism, yes. So that's why I would say that Falaknuma is incidental, and all of that creation of, or even the representation of Telangana identity, etc., is incidental and not intentional per se, which is why it's not really in the sense that in the line of any of those films which are claiming to be Telangana films. It's just there and it's happening. On the hero-centricism, I think the hero-centricism of Telugu cinema is an ongoing thing, and with the same political economy of the the way Telugu film industry works. For instance, in this case, it's the same person who's directing and who's acting, and it is the same Suresh Productions, and which is quite a big production house, and which has huge. So they still operate with the star. Star formula, and all of these actors, with like this guy, his name is Vishwak Sen. He's been the newer crop of actors whose films would release in the gaps between these big blockbuster films. Suresh Productions does support such kind of non-blockbuster films. So this is not really like, in terms of budget, it's not a huge blockbuster film, but still supported by Suresh Productions, because they have an entire exhibition network under their control as well. All of those single screen, many single screen theaters are all under Suresh Productions control. So they decide as to which film gets screening space. Say, for instance, they release these non-big hero films when the big hero films is not happening, and only for a stipulated period between the two big hero films. So it is this entire completely integrated, top to bottom integrated industry, which is all set on the star, because it is the star and the star families who dictate capital. So I feel that it's in that network that which enables only a star centric film, and not really like anything which is like, it's not an Angamali Diaries, it's Falaknuma Das instead. So maybe that's probably what I can think of.
Another thing that I wanted you to reflect on was, while watching this movie, I was expecting that there'll be more Muslim characters. But it looks like, going by the film, old city is dominated by Hindus, and Muslims are peripheral in this. So I don't know how to make sense of it. Is there a deliberate laying claim to old city by the Hindus, or was it too risky to bring in Muslim characters as gangsters? I don't know how to make sense of it, because
No,
there it's the Christians who dominate
Yes,
the screen in the Angamali Diaries. So here it becomes Hindus. I was wondering why it is.
So I would say that that's because the Telugu film universe is an extraordinarily Hindu universe, and even having a peripheral characters like a friend Fazal and a heroine which is Zoya and her mother and all of these, like even Mastan Bai, whoever, all of those people, even having those peripheral positive characters is quite unusual for Telugu film audience, and because it's a completely like a Hindu audience that the Telugu films address. So I think they were playing because it was not really an intentional film in that sense to say even address Falaknuma or even address like try to represent Falaknuma or try to represent old city or Hyderabad in that sense. So they were just like I mean, my understanding is that they were just playing to the existing, not shifting the audience base at all, which is a very dominant. It's completely a Hindu audience. That the imagined audience of the Telugu film is completely Hindu. So they're just in keeping with that understanding, just bringing in like in order not to completely Hindu wash Falaknuma, we have those even peripheral characters, which is itself quite unusual for Telugu cinema. So it's just that they address only a Telugu audience completely. In Telugu equal to Hindu, I mean.
Vishwaksen is from Bhimavaram. So I think these are, as you are informing from the beginning, it's only just tappings, nothing a concrete one. See, even if you see the certain dons, like goons who are there before Chandrababu Naidu, all are also Hindu characters. Sri Shailam Yadav or all those things. None of them are from Muslim bas. They don't have. So it's not kind of a Mumbai kind of culture. It's distinct. So, but this movie, you cannot take that serious. But picturization, they have put effort to bring the geography of old city, or so-called old city, in quote and unquote.
I was just thinking, Yamini, instead of saying that it was, something that they did not intentionally want to, I think it wears many of its, I mean, it doesn't wear most of its politics on its sleeve. It's kind of doing, or at least thinking that it's doing other things. But as you kind of point out, all this is simply happening as if it is the way it should be. So without really attempting to make it seem like these are contemporary political issues that it's dabbling with, while telling a story of violent gangsters, some of these kind of sedimented boundaries of Telugu cinema are, I think, kind of just being crossed without making a huge song and dance about it. So I would like to think that that is the way in which popular cinema would like, not draw attention to some of the things that it's doing, but yet be doing, some of these, as Geeta was saying, this marriage, and you were also pointing out this, that there is no big deal is made out of the marriage, and so many of the potentially problem areas, either it does not want to address because popular cinema does not want to get too embroiled into these issues, or because there are other things that it wants to focus on. This just comes as if it's to be taken for granted. So we are not being asked to look at this even as an issue, I thought.
Thank you for that comment, ma'am. In fact, like when I wrote about the film, this is what I also wrote, saying that, post Telangana, even that this, whether it's peripheral or whatever, even this subjectivity has been possible, like, because it never happened before that. There have been several films like which have been set in Hyderabad and like, use Charminar as a backdrop, etc., etc. But that hasn't happened before. It's only happened now. So there is a significance to that moment as such. So that's what I think. But there's one question which just occurred to me when I was watching it again, like yesterday, is that why is it that there's no follow up, like not by the same people, but generally even by like the Telugu film, industry itself, there doesn't. I mean, I haven't at least come across a follow up to this. Um, so I was also wondering then that would this be possible if there wasn't an Angamali Diaries? Again, it's not so much intended to say dismiss what this film is doing, but to rather emphasize on the adaptation aspect of it, which brings out a certain specific cultural aspect of the city, which probably something quote unquote original has never been able to. So that's all. So that's what it. I was still thinking when I watched it like yesterday. This film again for the first time, the first couple of times when I watched and wrote about it. Even my understanding, or rather, even my thing was that whether it is intentional or unintentional, it still is doing that like little bit of a shift, which hasn't happened in so many decades in Telugu cinema. Now, just while I was watching this, another question of, is it because it's an adaptation that it is, why is it happening here and which is not happening elsewhere? So yeah, that's all.
Anyone else would like to come in now? Anything else? Yes, Basa, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a historical question, I guess, in sense of, are there other films which are, located in the old city, which are, not the Bollywood ones, not IPTA, etc., but which have been produced or made by the Muslim community in Hyderabad, and are in Telugu or Dakkani, apart from the, the indie ones that we have seen, Angrezes and Hyderabad Nawabs, etc. But other than that, have there been any mainstream, productions? I'm curious.
So not by Muslim communities, but Telugu cinema has addressed a little bit of history in like one of films. Say for instance, there's this very popular song. The film is itself not available, but there's a 1957 film called MLA, which has this song called as Idenandi Bhagyanagaram, which sort of introduces the Hyderabad city to Telugu population, because that's exactly when Hyderabad has suddenly become the capital of the Telugu space, Telugu sphere, Telugu, Andhra Pradesh. And so that, and then there's one film which is called as Mattilo Manikyam, which again has this very famous Rim Jim Rikshawala Zindabad song. So there have been several songs which have been used to locate Hyderabad, and in that film particularly, like the protagonist moves from a village to Hyderabad, and Hyderabad is a place of I spoke to Nikhila ma'am about this in another context, but it's a place of the Tawaif, where you have which is not present in the coastal Andhra villages, which is not just so, it is a place of debauchery in that sense. So that's one more film. There's one film called as Mangalyam something. I can't remember what's the name right now. I'll just tell you just in a minute.
Yeah,
So
could you
that
type these in chat also, these names?
I'll do that. I'll do that just right now. So this film actually has a small section on police action. from a Hindu perspective. This is what I was saying, that for the Telugu film universe, the Muslim is always a Razakar. So the hero of this film, he has a very traumatic past, which we don't get to see until the middle of the film. So when the traumatic past, because of which he's almost like always depressed, etc., etc., and finally we get to know that it's because he participated in the Telangana struggle, quote unquote Telangana struggle, and he was mistreated by the Razakars, and he went to prison and he lost his family because of the Razakars, etc., etc. So while the history itself is quite muddled up on that, what happened in 48, but for this film, it is that the Razakars are the are the cause of trauma for the Hindus of Hyderabad. So that I'll just type the name of the film. So that's
of course,
another
there is
film.
Mabhumi also, right?
Yeah, Mabhumi, of course, there is, yes.
Although
Mabhumi
made
is
by a
there.
Bengali. Yeah.
Yeah. And interestingly, Mabhumi happened, when there was subsidies by the state.
Yeah.
So it tapped into the subsidies by the state, and then it becomes like, the Telangana.
It took a
film
Gautam
and-
Ghosh to tell that story.
Yes.
But
Actually-
I was more interested in the spatially, are they located in the old city? Sorry, Sridhar sir, 1 minute.
Very few. Very few.
Okay.
I haven't come across many at all.
Okay.
Only like discourse like wise. In fact, like the city is not represented in reality on screen.
Okay.
It's only the sets.
Yeah.
It's only very recently, like 1990s onwards, that you find the real city, apart from in songs. So the Ring Bin Rickshawala song, which goes across all the monuments and all of that. Otherwise, the city is a set city. It's not the real city in which the shooting is happening. So yeah, and geographically, at least I haven't come up. I mean, I was literally searching for them, haven't come across any films which locate themselves in the old city.
Thank you.
Just give you an idea. See, the Perry Anderson has written a book in 2012. It's titled as The Indian Ideology.
Yes, I've read it.
If you take this part, police action, I think the version we are missing it is available there. One has to work on it. Maybe that will give a better idea than following this quote and unquote communist interpretation of Andhra history, Kammaist interpretation of Andhra history.
Yes, very much. In fact, like the whole Sundarlal committee report, which basically talks about one of the So there's I'm sure a lot of you are aware, but I'm just repeating anyway. So in the 1990s, there was a report by the report of Sundarlal committee came out, which was actually a committee set up by Jawaharlal Nehru after 48 to understand what exactly happened in Hyderabad during the police action. And this report was not allowed to come out by Nehru because the report stated a wide spread of communal violence by Hindu police force, the Indian Army basically, on Muslims of Hyderabad, and which was comparable to the partition violence, which there's so much written about it, right? Like reams and reams books, films about partition, but there's a complete silence on Hyderabad and the violence which has happened in Hyderabad. Nehru didn't want it to come out because he said that if this comes out, it is literally in the heart of India that Muslims are being murdered. So the two nations theory becomes valid. That our claim that it is not really valid, or rather that we are a secular country, becomes very questionable because there is communal violence against Muslims happening in the heart of India. So it was not allowed to come out. But in 1990s, the report came out because some scholars dug it out, and there was a huge frontline carried I think a cover story on on the violence, on the police action violence on Muslim community in Hyderabad, and his name is Nurani, A.G. Nurani, has written a book on it, and after that many other books have have come out. A lot of it is also in Telugu, and this question of 1948, as you were pointing out, as Sridhar Motogu sir was pointing out, that whether do we believe the communists who nation wash it, or is there another story? This is constantly debated in in the Telugu and Urdu sphere, I mean literary sphere. There are lots of books which have come out saying that is it really because the BJP claims it as a liberation, so is it really liberation? But because nobody really referred to it as liberation, but it was just occupation and all of that, and the violence and the result of that violence on the Muslim community itself. While so much has been written about the trauma of partition in North India, literally nothing on what happened in Hyderabad. So yes, so that's the Sundarlal Committee report, which sort of shifted the whole question of what is 1948. Yeah, and there are not too many, but some books on it which have come out after that.
Okay, anyone else would like to say anything now? Mahesh Shelke, would you like to speak?
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. I could not see the movie. I haven't seen it yet. I have seen the trailer of it, but it was looking like more the love story and uh, and then the drama type. So I'll see the movie in 1 or 2 days, and then once I'll rewatch this session.
Yeah, sure. Yes, sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So is that all? Anyone does anyone have anything to say, like closing comments?
No, I'll just request again to send the movie names and the songs and all that, Yamini, that you mentioned, maybe on WhatsApp, the group, if possible. Because the chat, I won't be, I don't think we'll be able
I'll share it with you if you can share it with him.
Yeah, I think if you can share with Nikhila.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've come to the end of a really very interesting session on the film, as well as on the larger questions that the film throws up intentionally, inadvertently, however we want to see it. So thank you, Yamini, for this very interesting session on the film, for suggesting the film, and also for conducting this discussion on the film. So Happy New Year again to all of you, and wish you a wonderful year ahead and a very good night. See you next Saturday with another round of discussion on films, on Talking Films Online. Thank you.
Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you, Yamini, for the film. And also thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. Bye.
Happy
Good
New Year
night.
to everyone.
Good night.
Yeah. Bye. Good night.